In 1992, an 81-year-old woman named Stella Liebeck sat in the passenger seat of her grandson's parked car, holding a styrofoam cup of McDonald's coffee. She wasn't driving. The car wasn't moving. She simply wanted to add cream and sugar. But as she pulled the lid back, the unthinkable happened. Within seconds, the liquid heated to nearly 200 degrees, soaked into her sweatpants, effectively boiling her skin alive. This wasn't just a minor burn. This was third-degree tissue damage that required skin grafts and weeks of hospitalization. It was the hot coffee lawsuit, a moment that changed the face of corporate litigation forever. But while everyone remembers the coffee, almost no one remembers the item. McDonald's was actually forced to kill because it was too popular, too profitable, and ultimately too dangerous to the company's bottom line. For decades, one specific menu item defined the McDonald's experience. It was the gold standard. It was the reason people drove past 5 other burger joints just to get to the Golden Arches. And then, at the height of its success, it vanished. Not because people stopped buying it, but because the secret behind its success had become a massive legal and PR liability. This is the story of how the world's biggest fast food chain lost its soul, and why you'll never taste the real McDonald's ever again. To understand why McDonald's had to kill its most beloved product, you have to understand the man who built the empire. Ray Kroc wasn't a chef, he was a salesman, and what he sold wasn't just burgers, he sold consistency. He obsessed over the details that no one else cared about. He wanted a McDonald's burger in Des Moines to taste exactly like a McDonald's burger in San Bernardino. But there was one item on the menu that was Kroc's personal obsession. He called it his sacred cow. It wasn't the Big Mac, it wasn't the Quarter Pounder, it was the French fry. In the early days, McDonald's fries were legendary. They were crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside, and had a rich, savory depth that no competitor could match. Kroc would famously say that the fry was sacrificial. If the fries weren't perfect, the meal was a failure. To ensure that perfection, the company developed a very specific, very controversial cooking process. They didn't just use vegetable oil, they used a proprietary blend of fats that included a massive amount of beef tallow. This was the secret sauce of the French fry. It gave the fries a flavor profile that was essentially addictive. It was the reason the smell of McDonald's could be detected from 3 blocks away. For 30 years, this was the backbone of the business. But as the 1980s rolled around, the world began to change. The era of greed is good was also the era where we started looking at what we were actually putting into our bodies. And one man decided to turn his personal tragedy into a crusade. Against the Golden Arches, his name was Phil Sokolof. Sokolof was a wealthy businessman who suffered a near-fatal heart attack at the age of 43. He became obsessed with cholesterol and the poisoning of America by fast food companies. He didn't just write letters to the editor, he used his own millions to buy full-page ads in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. The headlines were brutal: "The poisoning of America" and "McDonald's, your French fries are killing us." He called out the use of beef tallow specifically, labeling it a saturated fat time bomb. At first, McDonald's ignored him. They were a multi-billion-dollar titan, and he was just one guy with a grudge. But Sokolof was relentless. He started appearing on talk shows. He organized protests, and slowly, the public sentiment began to shift. The sacred cow was under fire. Inside the corporate headquarters in Oak Brook, Illinois, panic was setting in. The marketing team knew they had a problem. The French fry was the highest margin item on the menu. People didn't come for the burgers, they came for the fries and bought a burger to go with them. If the public believed the fries were heart attacks in a cardboard sleeve, the entire business model would collapse. In 1990, the pressure reached a breaking point. McDonald's made a decision that many purists believe was the beginning of the end. They announced they would be switching from beef tallow to 100% vegetable oil. It was framed as a health-conscious move, a way to protect their customers. But behind the scenes, the chemists were scrambling. Vegetable oil doesn't taste like beef fat. It doesn't have the same smoke point. It doesn't create the same texture. To compensate, McDonald's had to start adding natural beef flavor to the oil, a move that would come back to haunt them in one of the most expensive ways possible. The transition was a disaster for the palate. Regular customers immediately noticed the difference. The fries were blander, more oily, and lost their crunch faster. But the real trouble started when a group of vegetarian and Hindu customers in the United States realized that natural beef flavor wasn't just a chemical approximation. It actually contained wheat and dairy derivatives. But the name implied something much darker to those who abstained from beef for religious reasons. In 2001, a class action lawsuit was filed. The plaintiffs argued that McDonald's had intentionally misled the public into thinking the new fries were vegetarian-friendly. The legal battle was a PR nightmare. It reinforced the image of a soulless corporation that prioritized secrets over transparency. McDonald's eventually settled the suit for $12.5 million, issuing a public apology and promising to be more clear about their ingredients. But the damage was done. The sacred cow had been slaughtered twice, first by the health craze, and second by a legal system that demanded total disclosure. But this story isn't just about fries. It's about a pattern of behavior. Whenever McDonald's finds an item that people truly love, they seem to find a way to make it disappear or ruin it. Take the fried apple pie, for example. For decades, the McDonald's apple pie was a pocket of molten, bubbly, deep-fried dough. It was a texture sensation. But in 1992, the same year as the hot coffee lawsuit, they switched to the baked version. Why? Because the fried version took too long to cook and was perceived as unhealthy. They traded a world-class dessert for a soggy, cardboard-like substitute that barely anyone actually wants. They did it because the optics of frying were becoming a liability. They were terrified of being the target of the next Phil Sokolof. They were moving away from being a restaurant and toward being a highly efficient, sterilized food factory. This brings us to the most mysterious disappearance in the history of the menu, the original snack wrap. On paper, the snack wrap was the perfect product. It was cheap to make, easy to eat on the go, and used existing ingredients like chicken strips and tortillas. It was a massive hit, especially with the younger demographic that was starting to move away from heavy burgers. So why did it vanish? The answer lies in the dark side of fast food economics. The snack wrap was too successful for its own good. Because it was so popular, it started cannibalizing the sales of more expensive items, but more importantly, it was a nightmare for the kitchen. McDonald's prides itself on the speed of service metric. Every second a car sits at the drive-thru window is a second of one lost revenue. Steaming a tortilla and hand-assembling a wrap took significantly longer than slapping a burger together. The franchisees, the people who actually own and operate the restaurants, hated them. They lobbied the corporate office to kill the product because it was slowing down the machine. In the world of modern McDonald's, the quality of the food and the desires of the customer are secondary to the efficiency of the drive-thru timer. There is a deep irony in the story of McDonald's evolution. They spent decades perfecting a specific flavor profile, a blend of fat, salt, and sugar that conquered the world. But as they grew, that very success made them a target. Every time they tried to fix their image by removing a popular item or changing a recipe, they lost a piece of their identity. The beef-tallow fries were arguably the greatest fast food item in history, but they couldn't exist in a world of litigation and calorie counting. The fried apple pie was a masterpiece of textures, but it was too dangerous for a brand that wanted to appear wholesome. Even the McRib, which appears and disappears like a ghost, is a victim of cold, hard commodity math. It only returns when pork prices hit a specific floor. There is no magic in the kitchen anymore. There is only the algorithm. When we look at the history of these killed items, we see the transformation of the American corporate landscape. We went from an era of build a better mousetrap to an era of protect the brand at all costs. McDonald's isn't really a food company anymore. They are a real estate and logistics company that happens to serve calories. The dark business truth is that they didn't stop selling these items because they were bad. They stopped selling them because they were too good. And being too good often comes with risks that a modern board of directors is unwilling to take. They would rather sell you a mediocre, consistent product that won't get them sued or slow down the line than a legendary product that requires effort and soul. So, the next time you bite into a McDonald's fry and feel like something is missing, that savory umami punch that you remember from childhood, you're not imagining things. You are tasting the result of decades of legal tie, settlements, PR pivoting, and kitchen optimization. The real McDonald's died in the early 90s, buried under a pile of lawsuits and healthy vegetable oil. We traded flavor for safety, and we traded craftsmanship for speed. The golden arches still stand, but the sacred cow is long gone. The disappearance of these iconic items serves as a warning for any business that grows too large. Eventually, you stop serving your customers and start serving your own survival. You become so afraid of a scandal or a lawsuit that you strip away everything that made you special in the first place. McDonald's is the ultimate example of a brand that succeeded so much it had to become boring just to stay alive. They had to kill their best work to protect their bottom line. But what do you think? Would you pay double for a burger if it meant getting the original beef-tallow fries back? Or is the safer, blander version of the future better for all of us? Beyond the fries and the pies, there's a deeper structural rot that happens when a company prioritizes the shareholder over the consumer. In the early days, Ray Kroc's focus was obsessive. He would walk through parking lots, picking up trash. Himself, he would measure the exact thickness of a patty with a micrometer. This obsession was born out of a desire to create the ultimate American experience. But as the decades passed, that obsession shifted. It moved from the kitchen to the courtroom and the boardroom. The dark business of McDonald's isn't about a secret ingredient or a hidden vault of cash. It's about the systematic removal of quality in exchange for the reduction of liability. Think about the MCDLT. It was a revolutionary packaging idea. Keep the hot side hot and the cool side cool. It was a product that required a specific type of styrofoam container that was ultimately deemed an environmental disaster. Instead of finding a sustainable way to keep the promise of a fresh burger, McDonald's simply axed the product. It was easier to kill the innovation than to solve the problem. This is the recurring theme. When the world demanded less fat, they didn't find a better way to cook. They just stripped away the flavor and hoped the natural beef flavoring would trick our brains. When the world demanded faster drive-thru times, they didn't hire more staff. They just removed the items that required human touch, like the snack wrap. This mechanical approach to food has created a strange cultural vacuum. We all go to McDonald's, but we all talk about it like it's a guilty pleasure or a necessary evil. We remember the better versions of these items because they felt like they were made by people, for people. Today's menu feels like it was designed by a risk assessment committee. The stakes are high. One bad batch of oil or one misunderstood label can lead to $1 billion dip in stock. Price, in that environment, excellence is a liability. Consistency is the only goal, and consistency is often the enemy of greatness. If you look at the financials, McDonald's is more successful than ever. Their stock price has climbed steadily. Their global footprint is massive, and they have successfully integrated digital ordering to harvest more data on their customers than ever before. But if you ask a customer if the food is better today than it was 30 years ago, you will almost never get a yes. They have optimized for everything except the soul of the product. They have become the ultimate dark business success story, a company that thrived by slowly making its product worse, safer, and more mechanical. The story of the lost McDonald's menu is the story of modern capitalism. It's the story of how a sacred cow becomes a sacrificial lamb at the altar of efficiency. We are left with the ghost of a flavor, a memory of a crunch, and a drive-through timer that keeps ticking, indifferent to the quality of what's inside the bag. We are all participating in this experiment, trading our taste buds for the convenience of a 30-second transaction. As we look toward the future, The question isn't whether McDonald's will bring back the snack wrap or the fried apple pie. The question is whether any massive corporation can ever truly prioritize quality when the legal and financial risks of doing so are so high. Is it even possible to be the biggest and the best at the same time? Or does size inevitably lead to the slaughter of the sacred cow? We see this playing out across every industry, from the way movies are made to the way software is developed. The McDonaldization of the world is complete. We have prioritized the removal of the bad so much that we have accidentally removed the good as well. We are living in a world of 100% vegetable oil, safe, predictable, and entirely lacking in character. The next time you see those golden arches glowing against the night sky, remember that you aren't just looking at a restaurant, you are looking at a monument to compromise. You are looking at the result of a 30-year war between flavor and finance. And in that war, flavor never stood a chance. The most popular item didn't stop selling because we didn't want it. It stopped selling because it was too powerful for the company to control. It was a liability in a paper bag. So, let's have a real conversation about it. Does the nostalgia for the old menu actually matter, or are we just chasing a ghost? Is the safety of the modern supply chain worth the loss of the legendary taste? We've seen the lawsuits, we've seen the corporate pivots, and we've seen the items vanish one by one. The business of food is darker than it looks, and the brightest lights are often hiding the biggest losses. If you enjoyed this dive into the shadows of the golden arches, hit that like button and subscribe for more investigative stories into the finance and crimes of the corporate world. What's the one item you would bring back if you had the power to? Change the menu. Let's talk about it in the comments. This has been a dark business story. Until next time.